Hello guys, good evening. I'm excited once more to do this video. Like I promised earlier today that I was going to do a video on all the assignments that was given in the last class by our lecturer on Python. So sit back and I hope you'll enjoy this small tutorial. Okay, so the last video I did, I was able to show you how to install the Python IDE and show you the path to the DOS environment. So today I'm going to use the last class exercise to demonstrate how you can also code on Notepad or any Notepad++ and still run your program using the Python interpreter. So let's start up. We'll start off first with the IDE, and I'll show you the DOS or prompt environment, how to save a file, then get that file from the DOS environment or command prompt environment and run your script, your Python script. So let's go. So I click on start, go to my menu. I'm using Windows 10. Okay, so I'll locate the folder Anaconda tree. Yours could be Anaconda tree 64 or 32. Mine is 64. So I'm going to go to Spider, calling up the Spider IDE. Okay, the IDE is open. The Spider IDE is already open. So the first question in the exercise, there's a write a program that asks the user for a weight in kilograms and converts it to pounds. There are 2.2 pounds in a kilogram. Okay, so the value for in 1 kilogram we have 2.2 pounds. That's what the second part of the statement is saying. So we have already been supplied with the value of the number of pounds you can find, or that is equivalent to 1 kilogram. So what we need is just to ask the user at runtime to input any value of weight in kilogram, and we do the multiplication behind the scene. So basically I already have a program here. Okay, now we could see here, first and foremost, I assigned 2.2, which is a pound, to a variable named num1. Then I want to extract or accept a number from the user at runtime. So I have to create a variable num2, and I assign the input statement. Now this is an input statement in Python to display on the screen this text. Okay, so this input here is a function, and in the function it has the ability to take a string of text in quote as an argument, okay, while it also waits for the user to enter any value, and that value, or that string that the user enters will be stored in our variable num2. Now, one thing that will interest you to know is that num2 basically it's a string variable. Okay, whatever you input at runtime, the system will see it as a string. Okay, so it behoves you as the programmer to convert that variable, to convert that string rather, to what, integer or float, as the case may be. So don't assume that num2 is an integer. Okay, because when you're dealing with input statement, whatever is extracted from the user at runtime through the keyboard, it's usually regarded as a string. So you have to convert that string to integer or variable, or integer rather, or float, as the case may be. So that's for step 2. Now step 3, I went ahead as quick as possible just to what, use the print function. Okay, open bracket, num1, okay, times float num2. Now what I'm doing here on this other aspect here, it's I'm casting num2 to be a float. Okay, it's called casting. Anyway, what you're seeing here is called casting, forcing a particular variable to take another type, another data type. Okay, so num2 initially was a string variable. Okay, so you're supposed to store any string at all. The string could be number, it could be letter, as the case may be. Okay, so whatever is in that string, in that num2, you want to cast, you want to force the data type, you want to force the data to take another data type. Okay, you want to force what is stored in that num2 to take another data type. Okay, we have the integer, we have the float, we have the double, as the case may be. So we have string. Okay, so you want to force it to take a different data type, and for you to do that, you have to put the data type in front with an open brace or open bracket, and put the variable in the bracket, and you close the bracket. So float num2 is casting the value that is stored in num2, or the string that is stored in num2, to take the type of float. Okay, and that will now be multiplied with num1, and num1 already, we know that num1 is a float, because 2.2 is a float, right? So we can just go ahead now and run the program. So basically what happens here is, let me explain this line. When the interpreter gets to this line of code, it's going to first of all execute this float and num2. It's going to change the data type that is stored in num2 from a string to a float. Then it would multiply it with the value that is stored in num1. Now the order of precedence here takes place, because whatever is in bracket is first of all executed before whatever operator precedence takes place from the left to the right, if we remember our operators precedence. Okay, so exponential takes place first, then multiplication, division, and multiplication are of the same level, addition and subtraction are of the same level. Okay, so whichever comes first. If you usually the program's execution starts from left to right. So from left, if you have a set of expression and the operation meets a multiplication, first and foremost is going to do the multiplication before the division. If it meets division before multiplication, it's going to do the division. Okay, so if you want to change the operator's precedence, then you need to introduce what is called the bracket. Okay, so whatever is stored in a bracket is usually executed first before the operator's precedence are followed. So num2 will first of all be worked upon, so the data type will be changed from string to float. Then num1 will be multiplied, but by the new data that has been converted from string to float. So we'll just go ahead. So there's nothing wrong in this. You could as well separate it. You could as well bring float2 and assign a value to it, but I don't want to do that because it's not necessary. This function here, or this operation, is still valid in the print function statement. So I'll just go ahead and run this program, and we come to the right hand side here. Say enter any value for kilogram. So I'm going to enter 6.09 and I press enter. Okay, so what do we have here? We have 13.3980000. okay, so that is the result. So if you use your calculator to check it, let's use a calculator to check what we have there. We have that's my calculator. We have 2.2 times the value that was received at runtime was what? 6.09, and I say enter. What do we have there? We have 13.398. okay, so we have 3 decimal places here. Okay, on our solution here we have several decimal places, so we can rejig, or we can rewrite this print statement so that it's going to house only or round off whatever the floating points are to maybe 3 decimal places or 2 decimal places. And how do we do that? We use a function called round. Okay, we use a function called round, and we put a comma there, and we put 2 or 3 as the case may be. I'll save it, and I press and I run the program again. Oops, I'm having an error here. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'll put 3, I'll put another comma, another another bracket here. That would solve the issue. Okay, so my number of brackets here were not did not correspond to this. So we have 1 bracket open, 2 bracket open, 3 bracket open. So it's supposed to correspond with this: 1 bracket open, 2 bracket open, 3 bracket 1 bracket close, 2 bracket close, 3 bracket close. Okay, so at the end of the day, this round function is going to truncate the zeros and leave it at 13.98 as we saw on our calculator there. So I'll save this again, Ctrl S, then I run the program. Okay, so what did I input there? I input 6.909, right? Okay, if you look at the screen here, right hand corner of the screen here, okay, you can see here, okay, 9, say enter any value for kilogram. Okay, so I press my enter. What do we have there? 13.398, right? and that was exactly what the calculator gave us rather. Okay, so I guess this will help us to uh, format our print statement further. Okay, so now let me show you how to write this particular program on a notepad, then run it on your DOS prompt. So I'm going to copy the whole of this. Okay, so just a 3-line code. Number one example is just a 3-line code, and we are done. So I'm going to call up the notepad here. I'll type notepad. Okay, type notepad. My notepad is up. I'm going to paste here. Okay, so now I have to save this file in a location where it will be easier for me to locate. Okay, so I'll click on save, click on save as. Okay, and the location matters, because when you're going to run your Python script, which is this program you've written, you have to know the path where it is, because if you don't know the directory or path, it's usually called directory, if you don't know the directory, then you find it very difficult to be able to run it in the command environment. Okay, so I'm in the Anaconda folder. I want to save this file in local drive C. I'll go to users. I'll go to somewhere. I'm trying to locate the Anaconda folder where the Anaconda IV and other files and libraries are. Okay, so that I can easily run my program and get everything and have what is called good housekeeping. Okay, not scattered files everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to save, or I can create a folder in Anaconda. Can create a new folder there, and I call it exam or exam. Okay, I press enter. Okay, I've created a folder, and I'm going to save this file, this script. I'll give it a name. The name is pound converter. Okay, .py. Now every Python file that you write, or every Python program that you code or generate, is usually saved with the extension py. Py stands for Python. So I haven't done this. You don't save it, because if you click on save, you discover this save as type is text document. So it's going to have the name .txt. So in order not to save this file as a txt file, but to save it as a Python file, you click on this arrowhead here, and you go to all files. Okay, click on all files. Okay, so with this, you can easily now save this file as your Python file. So take note of the name. The name is pound converter.py, right? So I've saved it. I saved it in a folder called exempt, in another folder called Anaconda 3, in a folder called Nadon, in another folder called user, then in a last folder, the great grandparent folder called C folder. I hope that is clear enough. Okay, so I can show you that if you are having challenges. You go to my local drive C. My local drive C is the first folder. Okay, I click here, you see that local drive C is the first folder. So I go to user. When I open user, now I've entered another folder again. So the user folder is found in the folder called C. Okay, so I'm going to open another folder again. Okay, so what do we have there? We have Nadon, a folder that is in a folder called user, and that user folder is in another folder called C. Okay, so I'm going to open another folder again, Anaconda 3. okay, and we look at the directory again, and now we have Anaconda is a folder. Anaconda folder is found in another folder called Nadunkpomwe, and Nadunkpomwe is in another folder called users, and users is in another folder called C. Okay, so now the file, the folder that I created is called exempt. Okay, so are we there now? Look at where I stored that file called poundconverter.ps.py. Okay, so exempt folder is found in Anaconda folder. Anaconda folder is found in Nadunkpomwe, and Nadunkpomwe is found in user, and user is found in C. Are we together? So this is the directory to where you saved the file, the Python script that is called Python converter, poundconverter.py. I hope that is clear enough, right? Okay, so we've been able to run this program in the IDE. Okay, so let's run it in the command prompt. So this is Anaconda PowerShell prompt. I'll click on it. It's going to open the PowerShell. Okay, right. Okay, so we are good to go. Remember, in our last video I said that you have to change directory to Anaconda, right? Anaconda 3. Okay, so we are in Anaconda 3. Okay, so if you are finding it difficult to know the name of the folder that you created in Anaconda 3, you can do dir directory. You click on it, and when you scroll, you should be able to see that folder that is called, scroll down a little bit, we should be able to see that folder that is called exempt, right? Do we have it? Okay, I'm finding it difficult to pick it out here. Okay, but I know. Good. So that's the folder, examp, right? So that's the folder, so you can get the name exactly. Are we together? Okay, we can get the name. You can copy, okay, and move down. And you change directory again. CD means change directory. I paste and enter. So I am now in the folder called exempt. So I'm going to run that script. Don't forget the name. In case you still want to know what is in this folder and to get the actual file, you can still do dir again. And what do we have there? We have only one file there. Are you seeing the name of the program, the script in Python? Okay, so you can now do Python. You type the word Python, then pound converter dot, you have to put this extension. Okay, so immediately I press enter, the program will start executing. Okay, so I have there, enter any value for kilogram. Remember what I entered initially, 6.09. okay, I press enter. What do we have there? 13.398, right? So the program has finished executing, and command prompt has giving control back to the operating system. Okay, so if we look at the calculator here, we'll discover that we still have the same 13 point. So we can still run the program again, Python, and give another value, okay, Python converter.py, and give another value, say 33.87, and we press enter. So what do we have there? 74.514. okay, we can use our calculator to also check that, right? Okay, so we clear screen and we say don't forget 2.2, which is a pound in kilo, which is equivalent to 1 kilogram, okay, times 33.87. That's the value we got from the user at runtime. Okay, so what do we have there? 74.514, and what we have here on our screen here is what? 74.1.514. Okay, I hope that is clear enough. Okay, so we move on to example 2. Okay, example 2 states that write a program that asks the user to enter 3 numbers. The three separate input statements. Creates variables called total and average that hold the sum and average of the 3 number. Okay, so I have a simple program here. So what is expected of you here as the programmer is for you to create a program that will request 3 different numbers from the user at runtime. So like we did, first and foremost, we have to create 3 variables, and those variables are assigned the input statement or input function with a string argument in the input function there, right? So I have val1. Val1 is assigned the input statement that has an input string function, and also would also hold on to receive an input from the default input device, that is your keyboard, at runtime, so that it can assign it to that variable. So like I explained initially, the variable val1 is by default a string. Okay, val2 is by default a string. Val3 is also by default a string. Okay, so now if we move down to the other statement of our program, now I created a variable total as instructed by the question total. Now you discover that I said that these variables are supposed to hold what? These variables are supposed to hold values of type what? String. So those values of type string has to be what? Converted, or their data type has to change. Okay, if you don't change their data type from string to integer, okay, or to float, what happens is that the interpreter sees them as string as they are, then it concatenates. That is going to add, for instance, if you say is and you say was, if you add plus in between them, you now have is was. Okay, that is what concatenation is all about. So since we are supposed to carry out a mathematical operation on those values, so they have to be converted. Their type has to be converted. So there is a casting here. There is an int. We are casting those string. We are casting them and changing their type from string to what? Integer. Okay, then we also cast and change the type of the second value that your user will impute. We change it to type integer also for the third one. So we sum all of them up and we assign them to what? Total. Now by default, because of this casting that is done here to integer, the variable total becomes what? An integer, right? So if you watch on the next line here, I just said print total. Okay, are we together? So it's going to print the value of whatever total is holding. Then the next statement here is average, which is a string here, then a float. Now there is supposed to be the question says the the three input variables should be summed. Okay, so they are summed here and displayed out here. Now the three input variable, after summation, find their average, and average is total number summed divided by the number of what values. And how many values did we request the user to enter? Val1, val2, val3. So that's how we arrived at this value here called 3, or this integer called 3. So now when you're doing a division, you assume that there may be floating point. Okay, there may be decimal. So it will not be nice for you to use an integer, because if you don't know what value the user is going to impute at the end of the day. Okay, right? So if the user decided to impute decimal values, okay, floating point values, you discover that at this point where we changed, or we did a cast and changed it to integer, okay, we definitely will lose the decimal part of it, and that was going to affect our result. Okay, so I'll do this and I'll show you, then I'll do the other floats. I'll change this casting to float, and we'll also see the result. You know, initially I gave this one, then I asked you to discard this one because because of that flaw. So I gave you another one and I changed this casting to float, because I want a flexibility, since I'm not using an if statement to check what the user is going to impute, whether it's an integer or it's going to be a float. If I'm going to do that, then I would comfortably use the int casting to cast the the three string input variables to what integer. Okay, so I am assuming that this is going to give me a decimal place when you do division. Okay, if it's even number, you know that your result is going to your result will turn out to be what even. But if it is not even, then you definitely would have what decimal places or floating point, as the case may be. So that's why I used what this float now is casting total to be type what float, and also 3 to be what type what float, as the case may be. So whatever the result is that comes out here, it will be a float value. Okay, so we are going to run this and see what we have also. Okay, so the screen here says enter the first value. I put 4, I press enter. Enter the second value. I put 5. I press let me use even all through. I press 6 and I press enter. I also enter, say, 2. Okay, so I have 3 values here. At runtime, I supply the first one 4, the second value 6, the third value what 2. So I press enter. Okay, so what do we have there? We have 12. So this 12 is this print statement here, 12. Okay, then the average is what 4.0. okay, are we seeing that? Okay, so I can add something of this nature. I'll say total of values. Okay, I'll save and I run again. Sorry, didn't complete my okay, so I have that now. Okay, I run it. Okay, I didn't put comma there after the string. I hope you're taking note of all this. That's the beauty of IDE. Okay, are we good? You are good to go. So 4, 6, 2. What do we have there? Okay, so we have the total of values 12. Average is what? 4, right? Are we together? 3 divided by 4, 3 divided by 12 will give you what? 4. Now let's assume that the user is going to impute decimal or floating points, as it were. Okay, so let's run the program again, and we say 4.6, 2.8, then 5. Okay, oh, sorry. So first value we impute 4.5, second value we impute 3.7, third value we impute 6. Okay, so what will happen here is that the 4.5, when converted here in this int val1, this is val1 is holding 4.5. By the time it is being casted, what happens when casting takes place on this variable val1, what happens is that the decimal path will be truncated, will be lost, will be thrown away. So you will only have 4. Also here, the decimal path 0.7 will also what? Be truncated. Okay, so that's what you need to take into consideration. So if we are to follow this, if we are to do the calculation here, we'll have we are supposed to have 4.5 plus 3.7 plus 4.5 plus 3.7 plus 6, we say equal, we have 14.2, right? So 14.2 divided by 3, because there are 3 values there. What do we have? We have 4.7. Now let's run this program. Let's finish the running of the program and let's see what the result is. So I have 6 there. I press enter. Okay, I'm having, okay, now invalid literal for int with base 10. Okay, so the ID is throwing an error message that what you're supposed to what you impute here is a floating point, but you are doing a conversion here in total int val1. You're forcing that conversion, you're forcing the type to be of type integer, so it's telling you that it is what? Not allowed. Okay, so that solves a lot of the issue here. So we'll run the program again and we impute what is expected here. So okay, so let's change this now to float. Let's also change this to float. Let's also change this to float. Okay, we save and let's go ahead and we do 4.6, enter, we do 3.7, enter, we do 6, right? That was what we did initially. Okay, so we're still seeing it as, so I'm going to exit this, I'm going to save this now. Okay, let me save this and run it again, because we've changed those values, so they're supposed to take effect. Okay, so the first value there was what? 4.6. The second value was 3.7. The third value was 6. Okay, so what do we have there? Can we see it now? Okay, so we entered 4.6, we entered 3.7, we entered 6. Okay, so the total of values 14.3, right? Then average 4.766667. So we can as well round this off again. Okay, we can round it off by introducing round. Okay, so I'll delete this and I put the last. I copy this, copy, and I paste as well. Okay, so always count the open brackets that they correspond with the closing bracket. 1, 2, 3, right? So this is the third one for open. For closing, we have 1, 2, 2, and what? 3. So we are going to have a comma here. We are going to have a comma here and put 3. Okay, and we save and we run. Okay, so value 1 is 4.6, value 2 is 3.7, value 3 is 6. Okay, I didn't put my comma where I was supposed to, so I hope that is where it's supposed to be. Two arguments. Okay, argument 1, argument 2. Let's see, I hope I got this one. Let's see, 4.6, 3.7. Oh, sorry. 4.6, 3.7, and 6. Okay. So what we see here is that we have more than the number of arguments that round function can handle, so we will not be able to apply round immediately from here. So we could as well break this down anyway. We could break this down to I can bring this down to say print. Can bring it down to say print. Sorry, just want to insert print round. Okay, I have floats there. Floats, I have float, I have total, right? Divide by value 3, then I put my comma there and add 3. So I want it to have 3 decimal places. Okay, so I have 4.6, 3.7, then 6 there. Okay, so we could see now average is what? 4 point blah 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 blah. Now this is the round off. Okay, so the round off can only house or have 2 arguments. The float argument, the total argument is 1, then the value 3 is also what? The second argument. Now this 3 you are seeing is the number of decimal places that it will hold. Initially when we implemented it here, we have average as one argument, we have total as another argument, then we have the integer 3 as another what? 3.0 as another what? Argument. Are we together? So the IDE prompted us to notify us that we can't have 3 arguments, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. It can only accept what? 2 arguments, total and what? 3, as the case may be. So I hope this is clear enough. So we can also run this as a script, okay, in Notepad. So I'll type Notepad again. Okay, a new Notepad. I'll press enter. I'll save this. Okay, so I'm going to save this file. I have to save this file. I have to give it a name. Okay, and I'm still storing it in the same exempt folder. So this is total average. I'll save it as that dot py. Okay, then I'll change the save as type. Okay, I say save. Okay, so the file, the script has been saved as what? Total average dot py. Okay, so I can close this or leave it open. I call up the command prompt window again. I'm still in that environment, the exempt, so I'm going to type dir to display the number of files in that particular directory. Okay, so we have what? This one was the first one. Now we have total average.py. So I want to run the script total average.py. So I'll type Python, then the name total average.py, right? I press enter. Now enter the first value. I enter 4.6. Enter the second value. I enter 3.7. Enter the third value. I enter 6. Okay, so we now have what? Total of values is 14.3. Average is what? 7.76666. Now what we have here is we have 4.767. so it has been rounded off from this number of decimal places: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16. From 16 decimal places, it has been rounded off to just what? 3 decimal places. Okay, so that is for the second assignment. The third assignment, here, okay, this one is a little tricky. Okay, so I have to comment this program out. Okay, comment this one out as well. Okay, comment this one out. Then we go here, we make this active. We also make this active. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky, but I'll try my best possibly to explain what is expected of us here. Now, the exercise says a lot of cell phones have tip calculators. Okay, now what is a tip calculator? A tip calculator is a calculator that you use to calculate a certain percentage that you want to tip somebody. You want to dash somebody for his services that he has rendered. Okay, so if the person's services that he rendered or she rendered was, the cost was 20 or 50 naira. Now the tip calculator is, you want to give him a certain percentage of that cost in addition. Okay, so it's either you give the person 2% in addition to the cost, 50 naira, or you give the person 3% of the cost of what? The service in addition. Are we together? So what this simply means here is that you now find the percentage. If the cost of the service or the food is say 200, now you want to dash this person some money in addition to the cost of the food. Tip simply means dash in our local parlance. Okay, so if you want to dash the person the addition, so you can do what is called, you can get a certain percentage of the cost of the food. Okay, you can do 2% of the cost of the food as the dash in addition you want to give to the person. Okay, you can perhaps, maybe you say you bought something of say 1,000 naira and there is a balance of what? 50 naira, and you don't want to collect that 50 naira. The person interacted with you in such a way that you were so happy Okay, you can decide to what, leave the 50 naira for the person. That 50 naira that you're leaving for the person is the tipping that you're doing, and that 50 naira is a percentage of the cost that that food that you bought or that item that you bought is. Okay, so you can find the percentage of 50 naira in 1000. I hope that is clear enough. So okay, so we have here num1 is assigned the input statement. So we are going to get the cost of the meal and assign it to num1. We are going to get the tip, the percent tip that you want to give to the person. Let's say you want to dash the person 50 naira, as the case may be. Okay, so 50 naira will now be 50 the percentage. This will now be the tip percent will now be the percentage of what you want to dash the person. Okay, so the next line there is I created a float value TP. Now this TP, so this percent tip is a percentage. It's supposed to be a percentage of the cost of the meal. Okay, so when we talk about percentage, it's a value divided by 100. Okay, are we together? The value divided by 100. If we say 18%, we are saying 18 divided by 100. So we are going to have what? 18 times 0. If we are multiplying, we don't want to divide. We'll say 18 as a whole number multiplied by 0.01. 0.01 is the same thing as 18 over 100. Okay, so the next line of code there is tip amount. So I'm going to cast num1 string value to float. Okay, then I'm also going to cast num2 value to a float. Okay, then I'll multiply it. So the whole of this, okay, they are in float. So by default now tip amount is also a float variable. Okay, then we print amount to tip, then we have the value of tip amount will be printed there. Then we have total tip amount plus float num1. Okay, so that is the tip calculator. Okay, so let's see, that's the end of that one. Okay, I captured what I was not supposed to hear. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to run this program and we'll see. So the type meal cost. Okay, the meal I bought from Chicken Republic is 500 naira. Okay, you know, for those of us that go to Chicken Republic, we have a meal for 500 naira. Okay, they call it refuel. Okay, so the cost of that meal is 500 naira. Okay, the next thing is say type the tip, type the percent tip. Okay, what percent tip do I want to add to give to this sales girl or sales guy? What percent do I want to tip that person? So I say, okay, I want to tip him like maybe 18% or 3% or I want to tip that person, let's say maybe 45% of the cost of the food, and I put 45 there. Okay, then I press enter. Okay, so we now have amount, sorry, that should be amount to tip is 225 naira. So the total amount of money I'm going to give to the sales girl or sales guy will be 725 naira. So I have added additional 225 naira. I have dashed the sales person 225 naira. So 225 naira is 45% of 500 naira. That is what this program is talking about. Okay, 225 naira is 45% of what? 500 naira. So we now understand what the tip calculator it's all about. Okay, so tip calculator, it's what we usually call in our local parlance here is dash, okay, or jara. Okay, if it's the seller that is doing you that favor, you call it jara, as the case may be. The seller may decide to what, give you a cup of garri and decided to give you half cup in addition. Okay, that half cup is a percentage of the full cup. Okay, so you're now living with not only the half cup but a fraction of a percentage value or amount of the whole what cup of garri. I hope this clears this aspect of tip calculator, as the case may be. Okay, so we can as well take this to our notepad again. So I type notepad, I open, I paste it there. Okay, so I'm going to save this file. I'll call it tip cal. Okay, tip calculator. Okay, and with an extension py, I'll change this save as type, okay, to all, then I save. Okay, so we go to our command prompt again. We are still in that directory. Okay, so we'll do dir again to see the number of files there. Okay, now I can now run that script called tip calculator, okay, .py. right now, type meal cost. You remember refuel in Chicken Republic, it's 500 naira. Okay, now we want to, the next thing there is type the percent tip. What percentage of 500 do you want to give to that person? Okay, this is what this calculator wants to help you discover. Let's say you want to give the person 35% of the cost of 500 naira. Okay, that's what you want to add to give to the person. So you press enter. Okay, so that the program ends. So now the tip, 35% of 500 is 175 naira. Okay, are we together? Now the total you're going to give the salesperson is 675 naira. So what this means is you add the tip amount plus the original cost, which is 500. You now get the total amount of what you want to tip. The tip calculator will give to you. I hope this clears and gives us great understanding, as it were. Okay, so if we look at the last example here, okay, if we look at the last example, or second to the last example, if I should say, yeah, last example, this is the last example. Okay, so we've made it active. Now the last exercise rather says ask the user to enter a number x. Use the sep optional argument to print out x, 2x, 3x, 4x, and 5. Okay, very simple. All right, so first what we require is just one input value from the user at run point, right? Okay, so like I said, we create a value and we assign the input statement or the input function, which usually extracts values in string. Okay, so now that's string constant. Okay, we have to cast it, change the type to integer. Okay, now the result will be in integer, because if we look at the example that he gave down there, there is no floating point, there is no division as it were. Okay, so we are going to leave it as as integer. So we do a cast on num1 to type what, integer, then we assign that value to TP. Now TP automatically takes data type what, int, because what is being assigned to it is what, data type of what, int value, right? Remember the lecturer told us that once the Python interpreter has the ability to determine what kind of data variable is created based on the type of data value that is assigned to it. Okay, so that you don't need to first and foremost, like other programming language, declare a variable type. Okay, if it were to be other programming language, we would have done something like int num1. Okay, then we say semicolon. Okay, that's a statement. Okay, but in Python we have the ability just to say int, just to say num1. Okay, this num1 can take any value. Okay, it could be string, it could be float, it could be integer, depending on the value that you assign to it. So the interpreter, or the interpreter rather, has the ability to determine the variable type based on the value constant, okay, data type that is assigned, or data value yeah, that is assigned to that particular what, variable that we created. So now if we come down here, we now see print. I decided to put this in one statement. Okay, now if you what I did here was 1, I changed it to type what, integer, then I multiply it with TP, remember, is the value x. Okay, that is for that. Then it's going to, what this simply means now, it's going to take this option, it's going to take this sept option. Now this sept option here, this sept optional simply means that when you print, when you print a value, when you encounter a comma, okay, you print these 3 dashes. If you encounter another comma again after the argument, you insert these 3 dashes here. If you encounter a comma again and you print the argument, you also insert this. That is what this is all about. Okay, so here handles x times the x times 1, this handles x times 2, this handles x times 3, this handles x times 4, this handles x times what, 5. Don't forget that x is assigned is assigned to num1, and num1 is also assigned to what, TP. So that is what you have there. So at the end of TP, at the end of this particular space here, sep 3 dashes will be inserted, then comma, 3 dashes again will be inserted, then comma, 3 dashes. So we have how many arguments here for this print? We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, and we have 5, because that is what the question says. So we're going to save this and we run it, and let's see what we have. The value there, he said, is the value of x. So if we take the value, if we impute 3, or we input, let's say 3. Okay, then we press enter. Okay, so we see, so it's 3 times 1 will give us 3, then the sep will be inserted, then we do 3 times, this will now be, if we come back to this place, we'll have 3 here, so it will be 3 times 1 is 3, then the sep will be inserted, then here it will be 3 times 2, it turns to, it gives us, it returns what, 6, the sep will be inserted, then we have here 3 times 3 will give us what, 9, the sep will be inserted after 9, then we have 3 times 4, we have 12, the sep will also be what, inserted, then we have 3 times 5, which is 15, so the result will give us 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, so if we want to run this again and have exactly the same result that we have there, we could see that the example is saying 7, so if we type 7, what do we have? We have 14, we have 7, 14, 21, 28, and what, 35. Are we together? So I guess this is clear enough. Okay, so we can also run this again on the IDE path, on the command as a script. So we go to our notepad, we save this file. Okay, we'll give it a name, save it, take note of the location. All these files are stored in the exempt, these scripts are stored in the exempt folder. So I'll save this at sept dot py. Okay, I'll change this save as type to this, say save. Okay, so I can minimize this. I call up my command prompt window. I'll also do dir so that I can get the actual name. Then I type Python. Okay, Python, then sept dot py, right? I say enter. Okay, I impute the value 7 here. I say enter. Okay, so what do we have? 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Okay, so guys, that is all about this 4 exercises. I hope this gives you an insight into how to code and how to understand a program and a problem, and how to think through to be able to accomplish what you need, what is required of you in your coding. Okay, thank you. You can watch this video over and over again to have a better understanding of what I've been talking about. So thank you, and thank you.